Hello there. So we're going to take a look at the random generator, which is probably the most defining characteristic of this unit and what sets it apart from pretty much anything else that's out there right now. So to jump to the section, you're going to go to Simulations 2. I'm on the teacher website. It looks virtually the same on the student version and in the teenage scenario. And you're going to click Explore, and it's going to take you to the questionnaire that the students are going to be filling out. Now, the questionnaire is fairly extensive in the fact that it covers all the decisions that the students have made to this point. So all the choices that they've made, the decision, which vehicle they want, where they're living, roommates, all of it, it's all going to be covered in this questionnaire. And basically, they're going to fill it out, and each student's going to be doing it differently because they've each made individual choices. Another huge feature that I should mention is that this questionnaire is mobile friendly. It works both with Android and with iPhone, so it is something the students are able to use their own devices for. Again, just making it that much more accessible, not putting such a reliance on signing out laptops or other technological assets the teacher might have to actually book. So I've already got one that's filled out just to save on a bit of time, and one of the features is if they work in a job where there's tips involved, we've broken it down into slow versus peak hours because the amount of tips that you're going to get at various points of the day are going to be different for different jobs. So I'm just going to put in random numbers here. It doesn't really matter what you enter at this point, but I'll say there was 30 hours on Sundays and 25 on Mondays that were in slow versus peak hours. And at the very bottom, students are going to click simulate, and what it's going to do is it's going to take you to this screen where it's going to break the results into two categories: income versus expenses. And you'll notice that some things are triggered, some things are not, and depending on how the questionnaire is filled out, even then depending on how random chance affects things, they will get a specific result. So in this particular case, you can see they had a few income events, they've made some money in tips, etc. In the expenses category, well, this was a bad one. They've got a car accident, so they had to pay a $300 deductible. They spent too much on their cell phone, etc. So things that you can't really plan for, but that do crop up in everyday life. There's also these top three expenses that we didn't give them control over because it would just take way too long for them to calculate that stuff. But if you have the time, you could allow them to come up with, well, what do they do for recreational activities? And then you just ignore this value and they could put their own value in. But it's completely up to you how you run that. Now, the really nice thing with this is if we go back to the questionnaire, everything stays the same. I'm not changing any values, and I click simulate again, you'll notice that the results are different. We've got different number of extra work hours. This one, yep, they got another car accident. Again, just bad luck. However, they also got sick, so they lost 3 days worth of income to being sick. So even though the questionnaire was filled out the exact same, each month is going to come out differently because everything is based on probability generators. So what this means is that each run of the project is absolutely unique for each student. So it's not something that two students are going to have the exact same results. Even if they copied each other throughout the whole thing, the simulator is going to differentiate exactly what's going to happen to them. And then they have to adapt to those situations as they move through the 12-month simulations or however many that you decide to do. So this is what really sets this unit apart, is the fact that so much of what happens in everyday life is random. So having that built into this really opens the eyes to the students that, oh, I really do have to have extra money on hand, and it is difficult to adapt to these changing situations. So hopefully your students will find it as enlightening and perhaps frustrating as ours have, because who likes random events, but nonetheless it is the most realistic thing that we could come up with, and hopefully it's as informative to them as it has been for our students.